there were some severe technical difficulties getting everything up and running here, since we were dealing, through GoToWebinar, what have you. But now everything is working, and I apologize for the wait. And we're ready to begin our part 2 of our Replace FRX series, and this is focusing on Management Reporter 2012. But before we begin, if you can choose your mic and speakers on your computer and listen through voice over IP, or you can choose telephone to just dial in using the information provided. And if you have questions, please submit questions and comments by the questions and comments panel. You'll see that, and we'll have time for some questions and answers after the presentation. And today we're going to talk a little bit about MIG, introduction to Management Reporter, interactive report viewing, deeper integration, report collaboration, design flexibility, and then we're going to follow that with a live demo. And then after that, we'll have our question and answer period. And once again, make sure you answer any questions in the questions panel. Now, a little bit about MIG. MIG specializes in the implementation of financial and business management systems. We work to help our customers streamline their processes and maximize productivity. The solutions we work with are Microsoft Dynamics, GP, SL, CRM, Microsoft SharePoint, and Business Intelligence. We have well over 15 years of business experience, and we focus from the mid-market tier all the way up to enterprise-sized customers. MIG is a Microsoft Gold certified partner. We're recognized by Microsoft Business Solutions as a premier ERP and VAR. We are also BBB accredited, and we are a GSA approved vendor. And for those of you taking a course with us for CPE credit, we're also registered with CPE. And now, without further ado, we'll talk a little bit about replacing FRX. And Faye Reynolds, one of our consultants here at MIG, will go through that a little bit.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. We're going to be briefly discussing about replacing your FRX that you may currently be running with Management Reporter 2012 for Microsoft Dynamics. There are many advantages to doing this. One is the fact that Management Reporter 2012 does have a very good interactive report viewing. It will allow for a deeper integration within the data that's in your Microsoft Dynamics GP. You can collaborate your various reports, and it gives you a great deal of design flexibility. The first thing we're going to be discussing is the interactive report viewing. This interactive report viewing is a benefit that from what the old FRX has, in that now you can attach comments to important rows in a report version. You can copy your comments from one version of a report to another, and these comments can be added at both the financial, the account, and the transaction levels, which means it can be at the very high level for the financial. You can attach one to an account as a whole, or if you have your report showing at transaction levels, you can actually attach your comments to each transaction. You're also able to export your reports to Excel or XPS. You can easily create a chart that's been based upon your report rows and columns that will show entire rows or entire columns. There are 5 chart types that are available. You can have a bar chart, column, line, a pie chart, or an area chart. And these charts will be saved with the reports. You're able to chart all of these at all levels. And you can copy and paste your charts into various presentations. Your interactive report viewing will also allow you to launch instant messenger clients from within a report so that you can have instant messages. Your message can contain context. It can contain the name of the report row, a link URL to open the report, and this is supported for Microsoft Link, which more and more of our customers are using. The interactive report viewing will also allow you to jump to key areas of your report for fast analysis. You can auto-generate for financial level reports at each level of your tree with descriptions, calculations, totals, and text rows that have no format codes and no financial data links. You can easily page within a report, and you can find a key value in a report, such as an account value or a description, so that you can easily look up certain items and numbers. Next thing we're going to be looking at will be using your deeper integration. This deeper integration will allow you to drill from your account and budget balances on a report to the related info in Microsoft Dynamics. You can drill from the Management Reporter report directly into Microsoft Dynamics windows. You can show account balances and budget balances. You're also able to import new companies with one click of your Microsoft Dynamics GP, or if you're using Dynamics SL. If you want to change your company name, you can update it in Dynamics ERP and then re-import the reports and data. For your Microsoft Dynamics GP users, you can use this with analytical accounting. And if you do use this, a second version of your company will be imported with the AA appended to your company ID. For example, it would show, if you're using Fabricam, it would show as the 2 or 2AA if you're using the analytical accounting. All right, report collaboration. You are able to personalize and secure your view of reports of data for all of your output types so that you can publish out one file for all your users, and each user would only see the information in that report that they should see based upon their security, which is a definite benefit that FRX did not have. You have more secure report output options because you can now publish to read-only report formats, which is the XPS. You can also publish a personalized Microsoft Excel file. Design flexibility is the next thing. You can quickly identify your accounts and dimensions that have been omitted from your building blocks so that you can easily tell if something has been left out. You can provide your users with additional dimension information in the account columns, and users can choose how they want to view their accounts, with or without the various dimension descriptions. You're also able to easily save and reuse dimension combinations when you're designing your reports, which will save steps when you have to build new reports. You're able to format your headers for rolling forecasts so that you have the ability to create a rolling forecast with the correct headers using your base concept. Your auto text will work with the WKS columns when your period and your year are defined, and you can use the base and the base plus X or base minus X in your spread from and spread to type of reports. Okay, these are some of the steps, and I will now go in and we can go into the a demo for the screen. To show our Management Reporter. As you can tell, when you open up Management Reporter, in many ways it looks very much like FRX did. So it does not have such a large learning curve. You're not learning something, having to learn it completely from scratch. Many of the items are called the same, use the same names and headers. You have your report definitions where you can go in and you can have your company name, and you could choose, if right now we're only using your our TWO company, but you can easily go in and change the reports for your companies. They change between the various company names. You can choose whether you want your detail level of your report to be your financial, account, or transaction level, or it could only be financial, or it could be the financial and the account. You can tell it to either show just the posted activity, you can have it choose your unposted activity only, or you can have it show both posted and unposted activities. So that if you had transactions that have been entered but not posted, you can actually have those included in your reports. You can easily set what your base period is and your base year so that it will, and this is easily changed by using the drop downs. You have your period covered, what the report date will be, and what your default base period would be, which is your system date -1, which is why, since it is now February, system -1 would show that the report would be printing for January of 2015. Then on your building blocks, you have your rows, your columns, your tree types, where you can easily go in and select what type of rows you're going to be using, what the column formats that you're going to be using, and if you're going to be using a tree or not. You can also go in for these, and this is on your basic tab. You can choose your tab for output and distribution, and this is where you would go in so that you can view your report when it's generated, so that it will come in the same way that you used to use a drill down viewer. It will generate the report to your screen. You can tell it to generate a single report to a single report library and put in a link to the location, or you can tell it to generate it to multiple report libraries. You can have your report include your headers and footers, include your format rows, any underscore rows. You could have it tell you if there's any duplicate accounts that are included. If you are printing to XPS, you can tell it to include any bookmarks, row and column page breaks, and include any comments. It tells you you can decide what your column width is going to be, whether or not you want to wrap your text or auto-fit it. And if you are going to generate into Excel, you can tell it to include your fonts and shading, generate to a single worksheet, or whether or not to include your columns. Headers and footers, the same way that before, you can go in and you have the 3 sections. The second section is where it would print on the center of your screen, the center of your report. The first section to be the far left. The third section is the far right. The same way that you can have also set up footers if you wish to. And you can tell it what page you want to start numbering the report at if for some reason you don't want to start numbering at page 1. Okay. You can tell it to insert any auto text, and you can also have it insert you can also have images that are going to be inserted. And in settings, you can come in and you can tell it, this is where you decide whether or not you're going to have any rounding. You want it to round your numbers to the nearest whole dollar, hundred, thousands, millions, billions, however you wish to round. You can decide whether or not what other type of format you're going to have. Your negative numbers can be used with either in brackets or with a negative sign in front of it. You're able to you can tell it to do your column calculations first and then the rows, or to do your row calculations first and then columns. You can let it you can tell the report that you want any negative numbers to show in red or not. If there's to be digit separators, which would mean there would be commas between your thousands. if you want to display your currency symbol on the first row, since on the main report we have it that we're going to be using U.S. dollars, the first row would show a currency symbol for the dollar sign. If you were using euro dollars or pounds, pesos, it would show whatever type of currency symbol in whichever currency you're using. Whether or not you want to display blanks for the zero amounts, if you want to display rows that have no amounts, which often you would want, because this way you could be sure that everything has been included, even if there was no activity. Or you can display rows that have no active. You can also display reports that have no active rows, so that even if there was nothing there, it would show a report with zeros on it. You can just set up line numbers if you're going to have any extra lines in between rows, or how many spaces you wish to have between your columns. You can select your reporting unit selection if you're going to select the units at runtime, if you're going to include all your units, or if you want to only display a specific number of levels down from a starting unit. And you can also click Other to then modify settings for page options, account, and transaction details, which this is what this screen would look like. You can set it to be print as either portrait or landscape, print over and then down, or down and then over, set margins. If you're going to reduce or enlarge your scaling, print it to the page width, the size of paper, the various account detail options that you may want to show. If you have any unposted accounts, this would be where you would mark it so they would show with an asterisk so that you know that these accounts have unposted transactions in them. And you can also select any other types of options that you want to, if you wish to include amounts in future periods, include any missing, if there's any missing units, it will give you a warning. If you wanted to restart your numbering with every unit, allow roll-ups of less than 1% for your various types of settings here. Okay, if you go into your row definitions line, this is where you would go in and you can choose your row for our trial balance. And it would show what our row is going to look like, where you have your row code, your description, your various format codes, and the way they were. You can have if it's going to link to various financial accounts, if you're going to have a drill down on all accounts. Your various details. And you can choose, if you're going in for your format codes, it's the same way that it will show descriptions, totals, calculations would be the CAL. If you're going to have your title on the left page, right of page, if you want it centered on the page, any underlined, any type of your row, any of your various row definitions. You go into column definitions. It will go in and show you various columns for this. And as you can see, as shown you, all of our various items are pretty much the same as they have been in the past. We go into the trial balance. It'll show you have your various columns where you would have your description, your GL accounts. You can have beginning balances, any current activities, ending balances, This is where you can set your various column widths. You can decide what your print control is going to be, if you're going to have it wrap the text, or if there's a certain column that you want to use in a calculation but you don't want to print. If you want to change the sign in the column, if the normal balance of a row is a credit. Suppress the column if it's all zeros or blanks, etc. You can have it for your fiscal periods, years and periods, your periods that are going to be covered, period of beginning balance, periodic for the current activity, and then the year-to-date would be your ending balance. And you can set various of your other column headings in the same way that we could in FRX. If you have any trees, you can go into a tree and you would set up your reporting trees in the same way also, where you can tell it that you're going to be have a tree for each of your various segments of your account units, the departments, the main account, administration, accounting, sales, and set what the dimension's going to be, that your main dimension is your accounts that had the 3 zeros. Administration department is a department 100, accounting 200, sales 300, whatever you happen to be using. And then you can go in and you can set up any report groups if you were going to be using reporting groups. If you had report schedules set up, you could set this. And you can go in and you can set your security as to how your users are going to have security in this report, so that you can have someone with administrative type security, read-only security, as to whatever securities you wanted to see. All right, we'll go back into our report definition, and if you wanted to print this report, and we'd click our Generate button, it'll bring up a little screen that will show you that it's queuing your report so that it can process it. And it's writing the various report structures, telling you that it's processing, so that you can actually see what it's doing. It's calculating, rolling up, requesting data, processing data. Where before you used to just have to depend on and wait until you could see your report. This way it actually, you still have to wait, but it does give you a little bit of a leeway on things. You can go in and you can see your various accounts that have been set up. And if you just choose to, you can then go into one of your accounts and we'll drill down and show you the actual transactions so that you can see your various transactions here. You can easily go back if you wanted to drill into a different account. So it's much easier to switch between the account lines and the transaction details. And it's showing all your various accounts. Since this is doing as a trial balance, it's going to show you as zeros at the end, of course. It has all of the various assets, liabilities, income and expense accounts. We have freight and handling, which is we have as part of our cost of goods sold. And you can see that if you have any accounts that have credit balances, we have them showing as being In the brackets, you can select, as you can tell, you can select either drill down using the name, the account number, or the amount, and it's going to drill in using any of these sections. You wanted to leave this report, you would just come up and you could close it, and it will come, and you'll be back here into your general report. I don't want to save any of my changes because we don't want to mess up any of our reports. Okay, as you can see, these are some of the, as I said, it's very nice that you don't have to learn it from scratch. Management Reporter also, one of its major differences that we had with the FRX is the fact that it does need to be installed with it on a server, as the base installation is on a server, which means that your backups, as you back up your various databases for your company, will also back up your various reports. They won't be lost. Plus the fact that since Management Reporter is supported by Great Plains, by Microsoft, so if there's any major problems, we can rely on Microsoft to help it with any fixes that need to be done. Okay, does anyone have any questions right now?
Sure, we do have a couple of quick questions while we're at it. I mean, one of them is, can you use chart functionality through the web viewer, or is that only available with the report viewer?
You should be able to use it through the web viewer as well. Mm-hmm. That is not one I have actually that's not a question I've come across, but just about anything you can do through the report viewer, you can do using the web viewer. That's the really nice thing, is the fact that Management Reporter is trying to does enable you to use some of the most up-to-date technology, which is one of the reasons you can have it using it or work with your link. You can send reports and instant messages, where before it was simply only with emails, and you were pretty much dependent upon what you were fairly limited in what you could do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then another question from the same person. These all seem relevant to what you're doing right now, so we don't have to wait till the Q&A part. But what is a building block in reference to the tool that shows the unlinked building blocks? Are rows included in the building blocks?
Yes, your building blocks are what they're called, basically are your rows, your columns, and your tree types that are decided. And you can set up various types of rows that have been, you have various defaults that actually come in, and you can build new rows, new columns, new trees that to do whatever functions you want to use. But basically, building blocks is simply what Microsoft and Management Reporter call the rows, the columns, and the trees.
Okay. All right. The other questions can wait for the Q&A. So go ahead.
Okay. As I said, a lot of these are fairly easy functions. I like the fact that it will actually give you steps along the way so that you can see when, as things are being built, as the reports are being built and run. Before we were just depending upon an hourglass that sometimes you weren't sure if your hourglass was working or if it was, if you were locked. This way it will actually give you steps along the way and let you know what it's doing. And now it's doing its, writing its report structures. And this is using a test report that Management Reporter wrote up with Fabricam, where you can go in and it pretty much shows pretty much just the expenses. And you can go in and you have, or you have your selling expenses. You can actually go into it and see what it's what's been budgeted for your selling expenses. The actual month to date and what the budgeted month to date is, which you can see some of the expenses actually have transactions and some don't. There's salaries, there's other employee expenses. Apparently, accounting department, there was health benefits for accounting. There was no health insurance paid for the various departments. There was no training. Accounting department didn't get paid last month. There was a little bit of sales commissions. And if you go into the various actual reports, into the actual numbers, you can actually see how things are going. And again, you can look at it and see what you want. This one, it wasn't going to show transactions. If I wanted to see transactions, it's very easy to switch it, so it will just show me. It will actually not only show my financial and account, but it will show the actual transactions. And it's going to build me a new report so that I can drill down. Here's writing your report structures. Rounding, calculating, rolling up. As you can see, a lot of the things will happen almost instantaneously at the same time because they all happen within the same minute. If I go into my salaries and then go into this, it will actually show me the various transactions so that you can see the checks that were printed and who they went to. This is something that you may want. This is one of the times when it would be very helpful when you set the security so that you could actually set security so that not everyone could see the actual transactions. The reports that show salaries, because if it's going to show the employee's name and what their net pay is, that is very probably something that you're not going to want to have everyone who can see reports see. If you're not going to want someone to know that employee West got paid $7,300 for the month, then because these could be some of the, this is the confidential type of information that you want to have limited to certain things, certain employees, so that you could have your managers and executives actually see some of the transactions that you wouldn't want your regular users to be able to access. And we can, and for the taxes, it'll go in and show you various payroll taxes, total taxes for the period. You can see what the various employees would be getting for your actual transactions. And you want to see what your what the budget is for administrative expenses. You can see that the various line items all have a budget of $10,000 for the month. As you can see, this is just a simple, very simple setup report so that as a sample for a test, it's very unlikely that your budgets are going to run this way. And so you can actually go into the various items for this. Right? If you were starting these reports, if you actually go in, you'll find Management Reporter is going to be installed under your Microsoft Dynamics when it's installed here. And if you go into it, you'll see that you have Report Designer, which is the screen that we're in. You can actually go into Report Viewer. So let me close the Report Designer. I don't want to save any of my changes because we don't want to make any changes. And you can go into Report Viewer and it will bring it up so that you don't actually, you may not want people to actually go into the Report Designer to be able to make any changes, so that they can simply go into the various reports and you can see the Report Viewer that's been run. You can see the report that was generated. And it has generated this report. You can see this is one of our past reports. You can go into your report library and actually look at any of the older reports that have been generated. You have a rolling single column income statement.
Hey, Faye, this question might be relevant to what you're discussing as well. What's the difference between a tree and a row or a column? Is it like a page or on a pivot table?
A tree is where you actually can go in and you can have it set up so that it will actually print a report that is only for a single department rather than a report for the entire company as a whole. You can tell it that you want it to print for all the companies. You can tell it that you only want to print a single departmental type report, so that if you wanted a report for just your sales department, you could have a trial balance or an income statement, balance sheet for things that are specified specifically for your sales department, or for your accounting department, your marketing department. So in many ways, it helps you to specify and to more fine-tune the type of reports that you're going to be printing, rather than having to print a report for everything. And you may end up having someone that you only want them to see the reports that are going to print for specific departments. You may want your sales manager to only see the sales department's reports. They don't need to see what the departments are for the accounting department or factory or any of your various other items. This enables you to more fine-tune your various reports so that it's not just such an open where it's going to show everything.
Okay.
I think it just all right. Reconnects me again. So if we went in and go into our report designer, and we can actually go in and tell it. We have one of the ones that have a tree on it. See if one of our sample reports has a tree. No. Well, let's see. I'm going to go into my tree. I'm going to tell it that I want it to use a tree. And if I went in with my trees and it's going to generate a report, it's actually going to end up showing, you'll have a tree then that will show each of your various departments should have its own screen for your report so that you can print them out, save them, email a specific portion of the report to somebody. Now I want to see just the administration department. Our trial balance for administration department doesn't have very much on it. Our main department has most of the accounts, and you can tell that we don't have anything posted to the accounting or sales department because they have been grayed out. But the same way that I could print if something had been posted to the accounting or sales department, you could actually go in and actually see only the transactions that are for that department itself. And the same way that when we go into something, we can go in and we're looking at the various items. And we can go in and actually see what things are here. You can go in down here and you can tell it that you want to download a report. You can tell it if you want to publish the report and where you want to send it, how you want to send it. As it tries to do this on the server.
So the follow-up question on that question, is it like a page in a pivot table?
It is nice that once the report you've generated report, it gives you those options there at the bottom so that you can actually do some changes. You can send things. See if we can do it without disconnecting again.
Okay. Well, if it disconnects again, I would say move.
If it disconnects, we're going to move along because sometimes servers just want to be difficult. All right, I'm not going to worry about it. But you can tell it to refresh your screen. You can change your settings. You can tell things that if you want to zoom in. It's nice. It does give you some options right here at the bottom instead of having to regenerate everything from scratch. This is where you would go in so that you could actually add comments. All right, and again, if you wanted to see again about our trees, and you pretty much set your trees up with your various options here. Various departments you can call, and you can set up as many as you wish. Okay. All right. Any other questions about the tree using the trees?
No, to continue on.
Okay. We have it under here. It's under our FRX. Right. You can end up, if you're using you have the migration wizard where you can actually go in and bring in reports from FRX and then validate your building box. You can convert the data and then validate it, or you can tell it that you only want to migrate and convert it without doing the validating. Or you can also tell it that you only want to validate your building box so that you don't have to lose your reports from FRX, which means that if you have hundreds of different reports that you have that you're not using, that you already built, you don't have to worry about having to rebuild them from scratch again, which I'm sure will relieve many of your minds. Management Reporter does work with GP 2013. It will also work with GP 2010, and it works, of course, with the new GP 2015 when you upgrade. And that's pretty much everything. That is pretty much most of our my demos. Are there any questions about any of this so far?
Well, so far, no more additional questions. We may in our Q&A here in just a few minutes. So, why don't you pass it back over?
All right. Let me pass it back to you.
Okay. If you have any additional questions, please put them in the questions panel right now. I know we did a couple questions in between earlier as well. Obviously, sometimes when they're relevant, we do it. Another one just came up. It says, "What is the report group and the report schedule?" You can answer that. Precisely.
Report group is when you can actually group a certain certain reports to run at the same time. For example, if every month, whenever you print your balance sheet, you also want to print a trial balance and an income statement at the same time, you can group all the reports to run at once, one right after the other. And the report scheduler is simply, you can actually schedule the reports as to when you want to run the reports.
Okay. And can you transfer reports from FRX to Management Reporter?
Yes, you can. You can use the Migration Wizard, and it will actually take your data from FRX, convert it into Management Reporter. You can also tell it at the same time to validate your various building blocks to make sure that everything is set up correctly. If something is not right, it will give you a message so that you can fix the building blocks that are wrong, so that you do not have to rebuild all of your FRX reports. They will transfer over.
Yeah. And then something to consider is also folks that do move over to Management Reporter from FRX. You only move the reports that you're actually using. There's a lot of folks will have hundreds of legacy reports that they never use anymore. You don't want to spend the time to convert those over. So something
if it's something that has already run, you would have it would be saved as probably be saved as a PDF file or something on your server, so they could come over, but they would not be opening within FRX, within Management Reporter. If it's a report that a legacy report that you used to run but you don't any longer, you can, and if it's in FRX, you can convert that over so that you could rerun them as Management Reporter. But if it's something that if you don't even have if you can't go into the report designer to actually generate a report again any longer in FRX, you won't be able, it won't convert because there's nothing to convert. You would just have to make sure you copy the file that it's saved as. And it would be a PDF file that you would just simply reopen, which is what you would have to be doing in FRX anyway, if you were still using FRX anyway.
All right, that seems to be our final question here, and for the sake of time, because we had those technical issues before. If you have any additional questions, please definitely email us. I'll give you the email address in just a moment. Let's continue on. Also want to let you guys know, many of you that are existing customers have our support plans, but for those of you that do not, MIG does offer various plans structured to fit the size and needs of your business. They work with Microsoft Dynamics products, but also we support any ISV third-party related products as well. And they're fixed rate plans. You pay for them once a year as opposed to having to generate a check every time there's an incident, et cetera, et cetera. So, and there's some of the plans also include training hours. There's an annual systems audit, to see, what's changed within your system configuration, where you are, et cetera. So, next slide. At the end of this webinar, a survey will appear. This is designed to help us evaluate and improve our webinars. Please take a few moments to provide us with your feedback. And we wanted to thank you for joining. Once again, we apologize for the technical difficulties that gave us a little bit of a delayed start, but we were able to get our demo in. Hopefully you saw everything you needed to. And if you have any additional questions, or if you'd like to learn more about moving over from FRX to Management Reporter, you can contact us at info@mig.com. And if you want more information on us, there's www.mig.com. Thank you very much for joining us. Once again, apologies for